Malo. Alright, 25. If you're like me, you want this to be short and sweet. So it shall be. Brief recap. Last week we went under the ocean and we discovered that sometimes things look pretty but we don't actually see everything that's there. And sometimes we have an idea of what's there, but there is far more to see. And we learned that just like the ocean, so only 20% of the ocean has been explored, there's 80% that is unexplored. And often that can be the same in our teaching practice as well. There are things that we haven't explored, that we do the tick boxes, we make it through the day, but sometimes we don't always see what's there. And that's why we're doing Teaching to the Northeast. We want the best. We all come to school to do the best for our students. None of us come to school to do a good job, to do a bad job. Hopefully come to school to do a good job. Been a long day, go some slack man. You teach 40 years 7 and 8 how to dance. Just saying. So yeah, we don't come to school to do a bad job. We don't come to school to let our students down. You know, we all want to do the best, and there's a lot of pressure in doing that. And so how can we do that? And that's where Teaching to the Northeast comes in. It gives us a tool to be able to look at our teaching in a different way, to be able to see what's not there, to see what is there but is maybe hiding as something else, and to be able to improve our practice for the benefit of our students. So look, we're going to rewind slightly because we've got people who are new, who weren't at Russell Bishop last year, who are going, okay, yeah, I want to do the best for my students. I don't know what Teaching to the Northeast is. So we're going to revise. So this is Teaching to the Northeast. Holy hika. Yeah. So for those of you who have not been here before, all of these dots represent teachers. And it's looking at two different things. Yeah, Cassie's face says it all. Right now, hey, it's all right. You'll feel it. So we have two parts. We have relationship and we have discursive. And we break it into 4 quadrants. So if you have low relationships and low discursive, then you're down here. If you have high discursive but low relationships, then you're up in the Northwest. If you have really good relationships but low discursive, then you're going to be in the Southeast. And if you have really high relationships and really high teaching skills, really high discursive, then you're going to be in the Northeast. And so that's why we want to be in the Northeast. That's why we want to teach to the Northeast. Because we want to be up in this quadrant. Because research has shown, it has been proven, it is scientific fact, that this is where students do the best. And particularly our Māori and our Pasifika. Right, we talk about culturally responsive teaching. This is culturally responsive teaching. And as we know, and Becky will be very proud of me right now, if we teach to the outliers, we'll get everybody. You know, this is not Māori and Pasifika specific. It works for them, but it works for everyone else too. So we want to be up in here. So, discursive. There's a word for you. Guarantee if I said to you what does discursive mean, we'll get 20 different definitions. So let me help you out. A discursive curriculum enables students' knowledge, experiences, concerns, questions and sense-making processes to be shared, valued and incorporated. It involves patterns of interaction in which all students are included and can participate successfully. Knowledge can be co-created for specific purposes, negotiated with students that will then reflect and even promote their cultural values. Curriculum and pedagogy become culturally comprehensive rather than monocultural, no longer solely reflecting the knowledge, values and purposes of those in power. Oh, that's heavy. It's also aspirational, and it's amazing. You know, if we can do that, that would be incredible. So discursive is how we teach as teachers. The practices that we use to enable students' knowledge, experiences, concerns and questions and sense-making to come into the classroom, to be a part of their learning journey, to be a part of their success, really. And we don't always get that right. We all have practices where we go, possibly not. You know, when we're really, really tired, it's really easy to slip into that chalk and talk. We become the sage on the stage, and we're trying to, you know, end of term, we're trying to cram everything in. We're trying to get through this. But we want those practices where kids are talking and their culture is valued, where they are making sense, where they have agency. That is discursive. You okay with that? Okay. So if we were to break that down a little bit further. The Northwest, low quality, whānau-like relationships, but high quality pedagogy. These teachers know their stuff. We'd probably taught by a secondary school teacher like that. Knew their stuff, not so good at the old relationships. Southeast, high quality whānau-like relationships, low quality pedagogy. Yeah, we're warm and understanding, we're undemanding, and we're the kids' friends, and everything is awesome, but are they really learning? Not so much. This one down here. Low quality whānau-like relationships, low quality pedagogy, cold and undemanding. Some of you would have had conversations with me previously, and I will tell you this. We talk about teaching being an art, we talk about teaching being a science. It's a blend of the both. Yep. You need a little bit of the art, you need a little bit of the science. Some teachers are really good at the science, but not so much the art. Some teachers are really good at the art, not so much the science. If you're really good at the art, but not so much the science, you're probably in here. If you're really good at the science, but not so much the art, you're probably up here. It's kind of like cooking. You know, there are those who bake and they follow the recipe meticulously. And then there are those who can freestyle and just know. I'm not one of them, that's why I don't bring my own baked goods to school. You don't want to eat what I cook. Up here we've got those who have both. They know when to use the art, they know when to use the science, they blend it. They go home and they go, that didn't work, I had too much science today, I need a little bit more art. There are the third type of teacher. Probably need to find a new profession. Probably have no business being in the job, frankly. You know. And some people, they find their way into teaching, but actually they need to go, yeah, it's not for me. And that's okay. But there's nobody sitting here, so we're all sweet. Yeah. So that puts it into context. We want to be Northeast teachers. We want to be warm and we want to be demanding. Demanding means we set high expectations for our students. We care about our students, we care about who they are, we see them for who they are, but we also set those expectations. No excuses, buddy. No excuses. Because you are capable, you are amazing, and you can do anything that you set your mind to. And so that's why we're doing Teaching to the Northeast. So that's our Cliff Notes catch-up session. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. So when we get a little bit deeper, we get this. So our interactions, now those interactions, we would call that word discursive. Those are how we teach. Are we bringing in kids' culture? Are we bringing in agency? Are we allowing conversations, or are we just talking and delivering? So those interactions. And it's things like Writer's Toolbox, that counts as well. Maths, no problem. Do we know our stuff? Do we know how to teach our kids maths? Do we know how to teach our kids writing? Do we know how to teach our kids phonics? All of those things. And these practices don't come one size fits all. They don't come in one variety. We know that. And sometimes we do something, we have an awesome lesson, and we go, yeah, do that one again. Sometimes we have a day where we just go, rewind. Try that one again, didn't quite get it right. We've all been there, eh? Yeah. So, basically what Russell Bishop says is, we want to be here, going that way. We want to be moving to the northeast. It's okay to go, okay, this is where I am. I might be down here, I might be heavy on the relationships, but not so good with the pedagogy and the teaching practices. I might be really good with the teaching practices, but my relationships need a bit of work. That's okay, as long as we're moving this way. So then the question becomes, why have we got 2 arrows going in the opposite direction? Anybody tell me why we've got 2 arrows going in the opposite direction? If we want to be northeast teachers, please interpret this for me.
Representative of your off days.
Representative of your off days? have off days, Mr. Aveni. There's no such thing as an off day in room 18.
Did that feedback? Feedback before? No?
Feedback, Clifford?
I'm asking, I don't know.
Why?
I don't know, because if you, or what's reflective or something, say you reflect on something and write something you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Is there a reason you say that?
Because I think we were trying to do better, so in order to move forward, you kind of go back and go, maybe that didn't work today, maybe, you know, and then that's it, 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
There's a really big clue.
Monitoring.
So it's one thing to get there, but do you automatically go, winner, I'm here to stay?
No.
You got to work at it, right? So we've got to be constantly monitoring, and that's what we talked about last time. We were going to be doing the coaching with you, recording lessons, all right, going through, you know how we coded last time? We looked at which areas fit which statement that a teacher was making. That's the monitoring part of it. And that needs to be ongoing, and it needs to be regular, and it can be something that you guys start now, actually. It's as simple as recording a lesson and playing it back and going, ooh, that sounded like setting high expectations. Ooh, I just rejected deficit thinking. Excellent. You actually can start it now, so it doesn't have to be a big deal. Just being aware. And that's something you can listen to in the privacy of your own bedroom. As I told the kids who were dancing this afternoon. You know, it doesn't have to be out in public, and it doesn't have to be something everyone else hears. It's just for you to actually go, I don't actually recall saying that. Oh, or wow, that came out unexpected. I didn't expect it to come out like that. That didn't sound as good as I wanted it to. That's the sort of thing we can do now. So by monitoring in the northeast, are we staying in the northeast? And if we're not, we're coming back and we're looking at the relationships, and we're coming back and we're looking at the interactions, at the discursive actions that we take. Because then we can build on those areas where it needs a bit of brushing up. You know, sometimes the house gets a bit tired, needs a bit of a paint job. Sometimes it needs a new bathroom. It's all good. Yeah. So that's why these arrows are coming this way. There's a lot to that. There's a lot to that. And if I was to say to you right now, arrow is coming tomorrow. Don't freak out, Jinx. And they walk into your classroom and they go, so you are teaching to the Northeast School. Yeah. What does that mean? Who could actually tell them? Excellent. Mr. Aveni can. I hope Clyde Jacks can, because she got us into this. Just saying. If they walked into room 16, and they walked into room 18, and then they walked into room 19, and then they walked into the senior leadership office, would they hear the same thing? Or would there be differences? Slight differences? Because we've got to be on the right page, right? We've got to be on the same page. So, last time, because, sorry, this is a NAT presentation, we did the Ocean edition. I forgot to tell you, today is the Little Red Riding Hood edition. Alright, what I'd like you to do, use this, tell your buddy the story of that picture, go.
Which picture?
That one! Okay, just to be clear, this is the picture. Unfortunately, that's quite an intermediate move.
Last word?
Grandma's house.
What do you need, Sunny?
Okay, anyone brave enough to tell us a story? She hums not?
Spin the bottle.
Spin the bottle. I'll give you one, Jack. Wow, Sarah has been nominated.
Good on you, Sarah.
Somebody.
We were talking about how everyone kind of follows the same roadmap at the start, and then once you get to the end, then that's when you get to the goal. Then it's kind of tailored for you to monitor it, and your map starts different.
I'd just like to clarify right now, this is not a psychology session. I don't want to know what butterflies or what else you are seeing in the picture, okay?
In order to give fidelity to the program, it's the same map, the roadmap for everybody. You don't take the shortcut.
They get interpretive.
I mean, this could mean lots of things up to everybody, but we were saying once you get to Grandma's house, once you've followed and done it with fidelity, then it's going to look, what Sarah's goal is going to look very different to Shodek's goal, it's going to look very different to George's goal. That is what we talk about.
Ooh, deep. I was actually after Little Red Riding Hood. And Mum was sending her some bacon to Grandma's house because Grandma didn't feel too good. So she left and she had to go to the woods. We're all good with this so far?
Yes.
Catching the story yet?
Yeah, basket.
On the way,
It doesn't say basket.
she met the wolf.
Yeah.
After a little interaction with the wolf, she continued. She stopped and picked some flowers for Grandma. She continued on her way along the path to Grandma's house. However, unbeknownst to Little Red Riding Hood, there was a shortcut. And who had taken the shortcut? The wolf. The wolf. Well, that gets pretty gory after that. But we all know the story, right?
Yeah.
We can all use that to tell the story. These give us our checkpoints, our markers, to know that we're on the right track. And so, I love this as a story map. It's really, really cool. Great reading activity, by the way. Alright, if you've got a reading, some reading that's got lots of settings, a story map is a great way for your kids to retell the story and show that they understand the settings. Yeah? So just like we can look at that and we can tell the picture, we need to be able to look at that and tell the story. So anyone who walks in, no matter what class they go to, whether they walk into SLT, whether they walk into Kaoro, and they say, what is this teaching to the northeast? They hear the same story. Because if they walk in to Kahukura and they go, well, you know, there was Little Red Riding Hood and she went for a walk one day and she skipped down the path and she met the prince and thought, you're really cute. And then she went a little bit further and she ran to Cinderella and Cinderella's going, hey girl, what you doing with my man? We're going, not sure what you were sitting in. Which workshop were you in? Yeah. You know what I've been dealing with all day.
Yeah, I stopped at the prince.
Yeah, you start with the prince?
Yeah, I stopped there.
So we want to be on the same page. So that when we come together and we're talking about our discursive practices, we all know what we're talking about. Somebody finds something, they go, I found this is really cool, it is a discursive practice. Or hey, this is really cool to build our relationships. We want to be talking the same language. We want to be telling the same story.
Ned, what about we aren't allowed to be flexible and creative, and then just
That depends. What are we talking about? Because I will come back and I will quote Russell Bishop, fidelity. So Writer's Toolbox, for example. If we talk Writer's Toolbox, can you be creative within Writer's Toolbox? Absolutely, because we're not given a program that says you must do this now and you must do this here. If we take, but there is still fidelity. We're still teaching 12 sentence types and 8 paragraph types. We're still using the sentence train. So the fidelity is, are we staying true to the concept and the idea? Absolutely. Because the last thing we want to be is little robots. I've left schools over being a little robot, or in my words, being a duck. Okay? So, one school I was in, the requirement was everybody had to be a duck. This is my way of putting it. As long as you walked okay, as long as you flew okay, as long as you swam okay, then you were all good. But if you weren't like that, then you had a problem with senior leadership. And it's like, but I'm an eagle. I like flying up high. Sometimes the currents come out from underneath me, I come down, but I go back up again. I'm an eagle. Some of you are fantails. You flip from here to here and you cheep and you chirp and it's beautiful, it's amazing. Some of you are tuies and you sing beautifully and we know that you're there, and every now and then we catch something, we see that you've actually got beautiful colours hidden away. Some of you are Kiwis, you like to be on the ground. You like to be unique. And some of you are ducks. Nothing wrong with being a duck, just saying. If you're a duck, be the best duck that you can be. So it's not saying we must all be the same, because we're not. And what makes us amazing is that we're not all the same. Is that we can come, and the beautiful thing about coming here is you can come and it doesn't matter if you are Tongan or Samoan or Fijian or Indian or Chinese or Palangi, Niuean, Cook Island, South African, because you'll kill me otherwise, Australian one. We'll give a pass. Because we come together like this and we laugh and we celebrate, and it's cool to see the Tongan whānau up here. And you're adopted Tongans, you know? But doesn't that make it such a richer place for our kids? So it's not about saying don't put your spin on, it's not saying about don't be creative, it's not saying about don't be you, but what it is saying is that all of the research that Russell Bishop et al. Has done says this is where we want to be. Be true to that. And if you do something that you're going, but this is amazing, but it's not building good relationships, then don't do it. Oh, but this is awesome. Yeah, but if it's not discursive, high discursive, then don't do it. So it's not saying we must all be the same. Because I don't want everybody to be the same. Everybody's amazing. God made you the way you are for a reason. And that's what our kids need. They don't need copies.
I think if you look at the 10 areas, there's 5 areas on the interactions and 5 areas in relationships. I think when you look at those, I don't think there'd be one person in this room that would say, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to set high expectations for my students. I don't want to, what's another one off the top of my head, I don't want to reject deficit thinking. That every one of us would look at those and go, oh, absolutely, that's key to ensuring good teaching and learning for our students. So it's not about taking away any creativity. We want you to be as creative as you like. And actually, those areas, they don't ask you to take away any creativity.
Not at all.
Be as creative as you like, but be aiming to, to do the best in those 10 areas that you can. Yeah.
So think about it as growth. Think about it as growth as opposed to we must all be the same. You take a rose, you take a daffodil, you take a daisy, all very, very different flowers, but what makes them successful as a flower? They're growing.
I do think there is a point about the creativity and fidelity though, because like if you look at maths no problem, like there's a point where if you're trying to adapt it and be creative with it, you might actually stop showing fidelity to it and stop doing it the way it's designed to be.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of tension there between creativity and fidelity.
Absolutely. And that's where those 5 dimensions on each one comes in. So this gets broken down into the 5 dimensions, and they're your guide. When you move away from those 5, now we've lost the fidelity. So, same with maths, no problem. As long as you're sticking to the core principles, and at the moment, for most of us, the core principle is stick to the textbook because I'm still learning. And that's okay. Eventually, you'll go, oh yes, sweet as. I can do this a little bit. I know to bring in this, use these models instead, because it just works better for my kids. There's nothing wrong with that because you're still sticking to the core principles. And it's the same with these, and that's why we've got those 5 things. And I don't want to hit those today. I was going to say those for next week. Lucky you. Is as long as we're sticking to them, and as long as we're not going rogue and coming up with our own new principles, then we're okay. So it's that balance. Remember I said at the beginning, teaching is a blend of science and art. It's not we must all do the same thing and that's the science, we must all teach our lessons like this. It's not, yep, freestyle it baby, because woo! We all know what happens then. And it's finding that blend, and what works for you is going to be different to what works for your neighbour. What works in Karoro is going to be different to what works in Wakakuaka. And so it's finding that blend. So this is just like you can tell the story of Little Red Riding Hood, and it's going to be slightly different, and you might embellish, and suddenly Little Red Riding Hood's gone emo. But Little Red Riding Hood is still going to Granny's house, and she's still meeting the wolf. It doesn't matter if she's doing it with the long dark hair and her black jeans, as long as she's getting to Granny's house, as long as she's still meeting the wolf. So that's kind of where we're going with this, is we want to keep that fidelity. So today, what I'm asking you, your challenge is to work in about groups of 3, is to tell the Teaching to the Northeast story. So take that really confusing graph with all of those dots and put it into MCS speak. If someone walked into your classroom and said, what the heck is this Teaching to the Northeast? You might not use the word discursive. What would you use instead? What would you say instead? Okay. If we're talking about we're moving to the Northeast, we're not necessarily going to use exactly the same words.
We take flight.
We take flight, yeah, absolutely. High relationships, high teaching skills. You might go, no, that's what we want to say. We want everyone to be able to say, well, if we're in the Northeast, then we've got high relationships and we've got high teaching skills. If you think that's the word, if you want to change those words, change those words. Okay, some of these we've got discursive, some we've got interactions. I struggle with interactions because sometimes interactions is how you communicate and deal with people as opposed to the teaching practices. I don't find that specific enough. That's just me, right? That's just me. You might have that same conversation. So you're basically going to take this graph and I want you to write, and we're not writing a novel. If someone walked into your classroom and said, what is this Teaching to the Northeast business all about? What would you say? And then we're going to pull it together and we're going to try and come up with our narrative, our MCS way of explaining Teaching to the Northeast. That fits us at MCS. Does that make sense for everybody? Yeah, Papai, any questions? Carl? So literally, don't overthink it, because that's the only space you've got. You are not writing your thesis.
I like teaching.
Okay.
I like teaching interaction.
You're writing in plain English. How many words?
3,506.
If you're not careful, I'm going to write a toolbox on you and go, you must have between 100 and 120 words. You must start with an adverb start. You must not use the words at, the, in, of, as. Just write. Don't overcomplicate it, people. Right, make your own teams, 3s, 4s. Once you've got a piece of paper, tell a story.